So just because I think my neighbor next door hates me because I'm highly melanated, that doesn't mean that it's true. According to scholars Richard D'Angelo and Gene Stefanik, race is the product of social thought and not connected to biological reality. I agree with that. I do want to push back, however, because one of the ideas that, and I call it, you've heard me call it the classical definition of racism. The classical definition of racism was clearly that somebody had animus towards another person, or one people group had animus towards another people group simply because of externals. And there was true animus towards. The reason I bring that up is because we're going to find out in a moment that there's not true animus. There's not a true argument against all these other areas. It's just the fact that I think it's there. And they kind of give you a little bit of a hand tip here. When you read right here, race is the product of social thought. So again, just because somebody might think something does not mean that it's true, does not mean that it's real, doesn't comport with reality. So just because I think my neighbor next door hates me because I'm highly melanated, that doesn't mean that it's true. It doesn't mean that. We're going to see this in a moment. They're going to tease this out a little bit more, that, well, there might be a little bit more questions about this. And I just want you to be equipped to ask more questions and not just take everything face value and run with it. Because keep in mind, they've already exposed that there is the recognition that race is not biologically real. They acknowledge that there is no difference in races. So when I bring up Acts chapter 17, I'm not making it up. They actually agree with what the Lord said in Acts chapter 17, that God made all people from one person. So now we can deal with that accordingly. However, it's a societal construct. I think we should be mindful that, hey, if this is something that we've made up in society and something that we've constructed in society, we might need to be careful governing and building all of our frameworks on this, because it's something that we've constructed that wasn't biblical. It's something that we've constructed that is not necessarily foundational. And even more than that, it's something that can lead us into some real deep kimchi. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more as well. And so the next bullet point, or the next tenet of critical race theory from the American Bar Association. Here we go. Now we're getting into some deep, choppy waters. Let's go. Acknowledgement that racism is a normal feature of society and is embedded within systems and institutions like the legal system that replicate racial inequity. Is that true, though? Is it? Is racism a normal feature of society? How do you determine that? I went outside and picked up my mail earlier and spoke to my neighbor. He said hi. Was there racism involved in that? Because you're saying that I must acknowledge that racism is a normal feature of society. How do you determine that? I don't understand that. And I don't think truly they understand either. They just say it. Because I've mentioned before, when you embrace critical race theory, you get the superpower of knowing the thoughts of other people. So you don't know that your neighbor has some kind of racial animus towards you. You don't know that. You are assuming that. You are literally assuming something on somebody that you don't know. You do not know that. I'm sorry. Unless you know that there's really some issue, how do you know that? But let's continue. And is embedded within systems and institutions. What systems? What institutions? Now, are there systems? Was there redlining? Yeah, absolutely. Yep, there was. Is that being played out everywhere right now today? I don't think you can do that. Institutions? What institutions? This is where I want to empower you to ask more questions. Don't just take this at face value. Well, what systems are you referring to? What systems? What institutions? What institutions? Examples, please. And again, most of the time, they're live action role playing. So they're fighting something that happened in the past with veracity. They're fighting something that happened in the past with all the bravado and courage of a William Wallace, of stuff that happens today. They ignore that. So I would say, well, okay, institutions like Planned Parenthood that murders more black and brown babies than Hitler ever could have, than the KKK ever could have, the transatlantic slave trade ever could have. How about that? Then that's an institution that's demonstrating racial animus. What are you going to do about that? And that's today. That's happening today. You can be a warrior for it right now. What are you going to do? Oh, you want to go back in the past and tell me about Christopher Columbus's third grade spelling test that he cheated on? Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. All right. You want me to be worried about Jonathan Edwards, whether or not he laced his shoes up the correct way? Gotcha. Okay. But you don't care about black and brown babies that are murdered by Planned Parenthood. Oh, got it. Nope. Got you. Totally got you. Let us continue. Like the legal system that replicates racial inequity. Now, we say this a lot, and there are some issues within the legal system because, newsflash, we are sinners. Newsflash, we're flawed. So there are jacked upness within the legal system. There's jacked upness in the education system. There's jacked upness in the lawn care service. There's jacked upness at my local grocery store because they did not have my iced coffee that I wanted. So there is some jacked up inequities, and I want to raise some cane about that. In the legal system, are there problems? Yeah, they are. But are they all based upon race? This effort is meant to stop you from asking questions and asking more poignant, direct questions. You would almost think that the legal system only cares about if a person of less melanin perpetrates a crime or something is happening, a person with less melanin does something to a person of high melanin or a brown person or whatever. That's the only time the legal situation matters. But when a person of high melanin does something the other way, they don't care that much. And I know people are going to say, don't bring up black on black crime. And why not? Why can you not bring up black on black crime? Why is that not a thing? Why is only white on black or white on brown? Why is that the only crime that matters that you can get like up and uproar about? I just want to know. So I want to, again, encourage you to ask better questions. Let us continue. This dismisses the idea that racist incidents are aberrations, but instead are manifestations of structural and systemic racism. Really? Maybe they're just issues because we're sinners. And again, they want, and they're putting this in here to stop further dialogue and discussion. This dismisses the idea that racist incidents are aberrations. Maybe you were going to say like, hey man, that was a one-off. Like that police officer, that situation right there, that's a one-off. But no, they want to push that aside and say, no, it's not a one-off. It is as if it is a manifestation of structural and systemic racism. Show me where a police officer is trained to murder unarmed black men. Show me where they are trained to do that. Because if it's a systemic situation, we should be able to see it. How are they trained to do that? Ask better questions. Don't put up with this mess. Ask questions. Require them to show you. Don't just take this. Okay, it's a structural. What is structural about black people spend more money on consumables than they save? What is the structural racism that's there? What's stopping you from opening a bank in a highly a densely populated black neighborhood so that people can start saving money instead of the check cashing places? What structural racism is there? I'm just going to ask questions, and I want to encourage you to ask better questions. Don't put up with this. You don't have to put up with this. So this idea of the acknowledgement, first of all, you have to acknowledge that. What if you don't agree with that? Like from the word acknowledgement, we already are stumbling. I don't agree with that. I don't agree that racism is a normal feature of society. No, I don't. My neighbor that drove past my house and didn't speak to me, they just didn't speak. It's okay. The lady that cut me off on the highway, she was just distracted. She's putting on her makeup, trying to go to work. It ain't got nothing to do with her hating black folk. I don't have the superpower of knowing somebody's internal heart constitution toward me. I don't have that. I don't know where their mindset is. and I can't assume it based upon their skin color. There's nothing that gives me that ability to do that. Nothing. Nor you. But let us continue. Acknowledgement that racism is a normal feature of society. Why? Why do I have to acknowledge that? Maybe people in society are sinners, and sinners do what sinners do. They sin. Why does racism have to be the reason why, rather than just the fact that you're a greedy, low down, rotten son of Adam, just like me? Why is that not the case? Why is it not the case that you're selfish? Why is it not the case that you don't think about others as you should? Why does it have to be that you thought about my skin color? Maybe you didn't. Maybe you didn't even see me. Maybe you didn't even know me. Maybe we talked on the phone. Maybe we talked through email. And you just mistreated me. Like, why? Why does it have to be a normal feature of society? It doesn't. That's my point. And is embedded within systems and institutions. Ask what systems, ask what institutions. What systems are in place? The fact that my mailman has still not put my $1 million check, he keep putting it in somebody else's box. What's that got to do with racism? My mailman is black, and we joke about my $1 million check every time I see him. What system? What institutions? Don't put up with this. Like the legal system. So the legal system is askew. Now, again, as I said before, yeah, it can be jacked up. There is some jacked upness because we're sinners. But the idea, the notion that the only reason that the legal system is jacked up, the only way that the legal system is jacked up is in a racial sense is nah, because you're going to end up doling out justice with partiality. That's what's going to end up happening. If you say the legal system is thrown off kilter to the highly melanated, the less melanated, then to fix that, you would skew it toward the highly melanated. Well, that is demonstrating partiality. And it was partial before as well. But so one sin doesn't fix another one that replicate racial inequity. So all inequity in the legal system is based upon race. All inequity within the legal system is based upon race. Take a second and process that. That doesn't even make sense. I'm sorry, ABA, that doesn't work. And you know it doesn't work because there's cities and there's communities that are seriously monoethnic. They may very well see crime at a different level, and it might overshadow, or rather is going to play out with people that are highly melanated or this particular people group. They ain't got nothing to do with racism. It's a fact that there's a lot of black folk in one area. There's a lot of Hispanic people in one area. There's a lot of white people in one area, and their crimes that they're doing or their legality issues tend to bubble up and make it look like, oh, only Hispanic people are getting arrested. Well, the whole community is Hispanic. Or only black people. The whole neighborhood is black. Yeah. Or do you expect an Asian person to get arrested there? There's no Asian people that live there. I'm just saying, ask better questions. Let's keep going. This dismisses the idea that racist incidents are aberrations, but instead are manifestations of structural and systemic racism. What are you talking about? What is the structure? What is the institution? I just want to know.